Contestant number 6, Gavelier, Thisari. Contestant number 6, a little big difference. Little big difference, contestant number 6.
There is little difference in people, but that little difference makes a big difference. The little difference is attitude, and the big difference is whether it's positive or negative. Dear Toastmasters, Madam Toastmasters, guests, and fellow Gaveliers, good evening.
Good evening.
There was once a attitude. Positive attitudes, negative attitudes. Positively negative attitudes, negatively positive attitudes. We each have our moments where each of these attitudes rise up and take over us. Our attitude is one of the things that makes us who we are as people, and also has a huge impact on our success in life. There was once a hare who was fast and agile, but also was forever boasting and teasing an old tortoise for its slowness. One day, the irritated tortoise answered back, "Who do you think you are? You may be fast, but even you can be beaten." The hare laughed and laughed. "Beaten? Please. I can beat anybody in the world at a race. If you're so sure, why don't you try to defeat me?" Annoyed by such bragging, the tortoise accepted the challenge. A course was set, and the next day, the two stood at the starting line. Once the race had started, the hare sped off into the unseen distance, while the tortoise treaded steadily behind. A few meters away from the finishing line, the hare stopped near a shady tree and looked back. Aha! The tortoise hasn't even made it quarter way. I could take a nap right now, and by the time he's made it halfway across, I could just wake up and win this race once and for all. And with that, the hare fell asleep under the cool shade of the tree. Suddenly, the hare jerked up from his slumber to the sound of cheers and trumpets in the distance, and looked ahead to see the tortoise crossing the finishing line. The hare ran to the tortoise in disgrace and shame, while the tortoise smiled triumphantly. The hare thought that he was invincible, that he couldn't be beaten by anybody in the world at a race. This itself is another attitude on its own. Life is an uncertain, rocky pathway which splits into so many smaller paths. You can never tell what will be up your alley. You should just never be faced with what life has to throw at you. It was just 20 seconds into 17-year-old Matt King's first professional rugby match, when another player's knee crunched into his spine. He was on the spot diagnosed with permanent paralysis. He said that he wanted to end his life then and there, that he couldn't bear to live with the nightmare of a movementless body. On his arrival at the hospital, he lay at his bed and thought about how young he was, thought about how much of a future he had ahead of him. And he decided that if he was going to live a meaningful life, he would need to get a good education. Several months later, he went back to school and got A grades in all of his subjects, and went on to Hertfordshire University to study law. In 2007, he became the first quadriplegic to complete the New York Marathon using an electric wheelchair and raised £10,000 for charity. He also acts as a mentor in many people's groups. Matt King has come such a long way, regardless of his disability, which he used to push himself forward instead of holding him back. His positive attitude towards life took him to where he wanted to be. He never stopped and thought that he couldn't do it. He just went for it. Our attitude reflects on who we are as individuals. Nobody in this world can just get a new attitude. We all have it in us. So when a certain situation comes up, it is you who can choose whether you want your good or your bad to shine in the limelight. I have a winning attitude. I want to win like anybody else. But it doesn't mean that I want to beat all of you. The only person that I can truly challenge is myself. If I'm good, I'll win. But if I lose, I'll at least have the inner satisfaction knowing that I did my best. And that is what counts in the long run. Everybody wants to win. But if your goal is to compete with the other person and win, you'll just be a little better than the next person. But if your competition is within yourself, and you want to strive and do better than you did yesterday, then only the sky is the limit. Over to you.
Now we'll have a minute of silence.